We're here, episode 55. We've got Tony, we've got Mike, and we've got the great Paul Pabst. How the hell are you?
I'm good. That was a lovely intro. I'm really glowing.
I don't like to go into. We just like to start and go.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Good.
Paul Pabst to us is now a friend, but he started off as a teacher and a mentor.
Just a little background. I'm a teacher at Sacred Heart University, and I've had you guys both in class. But as far as my media career, I'd say this: the influences on me were talk radio in Chicago back in the 80s. And then I think I was probably 13 years old and I discovered David Letterman. And it's not that I wanted to be David Letterman. I was like, you know what? I just want to be in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You know, everyone doesn't have to be Johnny Carson or David Letterman or Bob Costas.
Yeah.
But I just like, I want to be on work in media and make jokes and have fun and talk some sports, talk some other stuff. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it all started for me.
Everyone, dream is free. I just like to tell everybody what's going on. We're here, episode 55. We've got Tony, we've got Mike, and we've got the great Paul Pabst. That was my headphones, by the way. The great Paul Pabst. How the hell are you?
I'm good. That was a lovely intro. I'm really glowing.
I don't like to go into. We just like to start and go. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah, good. Yeah,
But-
give the guests no heads up that you're recording. I love it.
Yeah. Just get right into it.
Well,
you know?
I did say we were recording, I think, right? Didn't I say that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
But it's organic. We were already in the flow.
You guys started recording before I got out of my car. I was like, let me get my water bottle. Oh, here's
True.
Renee with the camera right in my face.
Yeah.
I thought it was TMZ when they get you at the airport.
We make people
I like it.
understand the camera is rolling.
Make the guest a little uncomfortable. It's like the Howard Stern show. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly.
It's with Thornstead, I think, too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. If a guest is, eventually you want to get them comfortable so they say things they weren't planning to say.
Exactly.
Right off the bat,
Right.
you want to throw them off kilter.
Yeah. And we always bring the good vibes and good energy here. You guys know that. But Paul Pabst to us is now a friend, but he started off as a teacher and a mentor. And I'll say this, being here right now, because, you listen to your teachers, there's, pros and cons to going to, school. But if you're going to school and you want to go to school, you're choosing, especially if you're going to your master's, you guys said this, you're choosing to be there. So if you're choosing to be there, make the most out of it. And you always, throughout my whole year there, whenever I would see you, would always just sprinkle a little bit more motivation here and here and here and here.
Well,
So thank you for that. I've always wanted to say thank you, so I get to finally do that on air.
Oh,
too.
you're welcome.
So-
Just a little background. I'm a teacher at Sacred Heart University, and I've had you guys both in class. Anthony, I think I had you both undergraduate and grad,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. Correct.
And you were
just graduate.
graduate
Yeah.
course. I'll tell you this. You specifically, Mike, you're like a wild racehorse that just needs to be controlled. I can remember our first class together. You were sitting in back. Your hair was perfect. You're looking good. The tan was good. You were ready to go. You look like you're going to hit the club about 8 minutes after class. And I don't know what exactly I was talking about. I was talking about the state of the sports media. And you just hand up like 8 minutes in. I think you're the first hand up in my class. And you said, you know what, Professor, esports, that's where it's at. You got to look into that. You got to look into that. Like, I got this kid in class at 8 minutes in, he's telling me what I got to do, which I both is like disturbing, and I respect it because the people who speak up usually in this industry are the people who go places. And so all during your time there, you were always full of energy, ready to go, lots of ideas, lots of thoughts, which is great. You're the kind of guy, though, who not reel you in because that's a bad thing, but just like you remember
Harness the energy, like focus it.
Remember the scene in Apollo 13 where they're trying to control the spacecraft and they got to get it in the window, point it back towards Earth? That's me. I'm just trying to point you back towards Earth because once you get to the landing spot, you're going to have a great career. You're already having a great career.
Thanks.
And Anthony, I remember you in my class because you're one of those guys who, looks-wise, you're not sure what to make of.
Oh,
you
my
kind
God.
of sit there with the stash and like it'll be 42 degrees out and you're wearing shorts and
Yes.
flip-flops. and I sit there looking at you the first day in class, and I try to guess what people are like by looking at them, which is not what you're supposed to do, but I kind of like challenge myself to see what's this guy all about. And at first, thought you were one of those guys who's going to sit there and not say a word the whole semester because you didn't say a word, I think, day one. But then you open up and have fun. But I also like, there's an old reference, a little bit of a Eddie Haskell. That's a term from the way back days, before my time, from Leave It to Beaver. The guy who's the nice kid, but you think is being a total snarky smartass to you in their head.
Oh, yeah.
Tony.
Oh, yeah.
I call him Anthony. I know you guys call him Tony.
We call him everything.
Anthony would always like, "Hey, professor, how are you doing? Those are nice shoes." And I'm like, I think he's making fun of me.
I know.
I'm pretty sure he's making fun of my shoes, but he's complimenting me. So I'll take it and, hey, thank you. So
He always gets that.
that's the State of the Union on my first vibe of you two guys.
That's awesome.
That's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read.
Renee's coming in. She wants to say something.
Renee, what do you think of that?
She'll come in.
All I have to say is I feel like you may know them longer than I have.
Yeah, I have.
Obviously.
Yeah, you have, obviously. I feel like I've only known you guys for 2 years. But from that first impression, you guys are that's like them to a T from my
Well,
point of view.
most of the times, people are just like their first impression because that's what they are, and you learn more about them. But it is funny that I've had a thing in my past where I'll meet someone and I'll not like them based off the first impression, and it's completely wrong because I think, oh, that guy's cocky, and I'm like, nah, he's actually cool. He's just a bit cocky as well, and vice versa. I'm like, that person seems awesome, and then you find out they're kind of full of shit later. And I can swear on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
We're fine. We're 18 plus. We advertise that.
so it is interesting as a teacher with your students. I'm from a generation before you guys. I could still try to kind of like read and see what your backstory is just on face value.
Nice. I love it. But I love that you're here.
It's fun. Good spot. You guys got a great building here. Great spot. A nice gritty area. Men of the people. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Not above but equal. Right? Like that. J. Cole. Yeah, so I know some of your story, Walter Payton.
No, yeah.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yep.
So tell us, like, growing up in Chicago, what that's like. What was that like for you?
All right, I'll try to give you the summary.
Yeah.
I was born on the south side of Chicago, 104th Street. We moved to the south suburbs when I was about 5. My dad was an iron worker. I have an older sister. I grew up Chicago Bears fan, Cubs, Sox, a little bit of everything. I went to Marion Catholic High School, nice school south of Chicago, and then to Southern Illinois University. But as far as my media career, I would say this: the influences on me were talk radio in Chicago back in the 80s. There was guys like Jonathan Brandmeier and these different people, and Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer. And I used to listen to them on the radio, WLUP and WLS. There was a guy named Larry Lujak, who's very old school. But I'm talking when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, not 15. And I had this little cheap sound design stereo in my room that my parents got me. And I would put it on like a half volume just so I could hear it. I put my head against the speakers. And I'd be entertained by these guys at 10 at night when I'm supposed to be asleep. And they weren't sports guys. They were like more comedy type guys. And those were my first like heroes of media. And then I think I was probably 13 years old, and I discovered David Letterman, and that's it for me. That's my guy all time. And it's funny because he's not a sports guy, even though he likes sports.
Yeah.
I ended up being like a sports media person, but David Letterman to me was kind of, and still is, the end all be all for media for me. There's other people that I admire like Howard Stern and the guy I worked with, Dan Patrick. I grew up on him in college. But Letterman to me, he didn't look the part. He had the gap in his teeth. He wore like wrestling sneakers with a double-breasted suit.
Wow.
He was a guy from Indiana who had no business on national TV, but he was snarky and funny and difficult and entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's not that I wanted to be David Letterman. I was like, you know what? I just want to be in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't have to be Johnny Carson or David Letterman or Bob Costas.
Yeah.
But I just like, I want to be on work in media and make jokes and have fun and talk some sports, talk some other stuff. And that's kind of how it all started for me.
Wow. That's pretty sick, huh, Tony?
Yeah, that's great.
I mean,
He wasn't listening.
David Letterman.
Tony wasn't listening.
Oh, that was.
No, he's in. He's
of
lasered
course.
in.
I'm just kidding.
No, he's lasered in.
No, it's funny because my mom was a huge David Letterman fan,
Sure.
and she used to tell me like stories when he was young, and doing the Tonight Show because obviously, when I was in high school, I
Tony's
watched
funny.
him.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm a funny guy. I can recognize humor.
Right.
Yes.
No, but like I used to be a big David Letterman fan growing up as well. My mom was like, "You should see when he was younger. He was doing like physical comedy because he was young, he could move."
Exactly. He did these
like,
things like throwing stuff off a 5-story tower, or he jumped into a tub of water with a suit made of Alka-Seltzer. So it went, like this, because he was in his 30s or early 30s.
Wow.
And I'll give you a good story. I work with Dan Patrick, and he's been on Letterman a few times. And so twice I've been able to go. You don't get to meet Letterman. It's not
Really?
happening. That dream,
Dang.
that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
You're never going to meet Letterman. He doesn't even go talk to you before or after the show. You meet him,
When you go on the show?
and then when you leave, that's the last time you see him.
Wow.
Unless you're like maybe Julia Roberts or someone. But so when I was in high school, and the good thing is, so David Letterman's last week on air, I knew one of his producers, a guy named Brian Tetta. He is one of the segment producers. And he would call me to get Dan Patrick on the show. And he's a sports guy, so we'd trade notes and stuff. And I sent him this thing from my high school. So I went to a Catholic high school in the south side of Chicago. And it was run by mostly religious types, like nuns and priests. And then there was lay people who were also your teachers. My sophomore year, I started really watching David Letterman. And I think the show started at 11:30 Central Time. That's pretty late. I had to be at school at 7:15 in class. So I was up till 12:30 at night, at age 14, and then I'd get done watching Letterman. Again, you couldn't tape it back then. That's how dated this is.
Yeah.
And I would watch Letterman. I'd get up for school. I'd be a wreck.
Yeah, I bet.
I'd be just dragging through school. And then we had this, we had study hall. And in study hall, you had to study. You either had to be reading, writing, doing homework. You couldn't sleep in study hall. It was a relatively strict school. I would put my head down and hide behind. I would find the biggest kid in our class. I can't remember his name, but I would get behind him in study hall. He was like 300 pounds, and I try to like hide from the teachers.
Yeah.
And it worked a lot, but I would sleep, and then the teachers would yell at me, and eventually I started getting detentions. And they said every time you're caught sleeping in study hall, you get a detention. I got one a week, so I would say definitely once a week.
You got to meet David Letterman.
I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to bother.
It's going to
Dave.
happen one day.
If he's pulled over and he needs a tire change, I'll be there for him. But
yeah, exactly.
So I would get detentions all the time, and finally they sent a no. They brought me to the office, and I had to meet with the principal, who was a nun, by the way, very nice lady. But she goes, Paul, you're a decent student. You're not a troublemaker. I wasn't. I was kind of like a C+ student who didn't cause a lot of trouble. I got along with people. She goes, why do you have 20 detentions this year? Eventually when you get to a certain number, I have to suspend you. They have rules in this Catholic high school. And I said to a nun, can you imagine a 14-year-old boy talking to a nun? I go, Sister Judith Ann. She goes, why are you up so late? Because she asked why. I go, I'm up to 12:30 every night. She goes, doing homework? Are you having trouble with your studies? I'm like, I couldn't lie to a nun. And I said, I'm watching David Letterman. She goes, what's that? She has no idea. She's 67 years old or whatever she is.
Yeah.
I go, it's a comedy night show. It's like Johnny Carson. She knows who Johnny Carson is, but David Letterman was newer. Mm-hmm. And she goes, well, I'm going to have to ask you to not watch that show. You got to go to bed at a good hour. I go, I can't do that. I go, I'm going to watch that show. It's that important to me. I go, that's what I want to do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I go, I like algebra, but no, I don't like algebra.
Yeah.
Told her the story. So she writes a letter home to my mother, and it's on like Marian Catholic letterhead, and it's handwritten. Mrs. Pabst, I have to talk to you about your son and concerned about his future at Marian Catholic. He's built up all these detentions. He falls asleep. He watches some show called The David Letterman Show, and he says he will not stop watching. And he'd rather take the detentions to watch a show. That's a long time ago, right? So that goes home with my mom. Eventually, we worked out kind of a deal where I would go to the library during study hall and read sports stuff, and it worked out.
There you go.
That sounds awesome.
Well, here's the payoff of the story. David Letterman is getting ready to retire. This is about 5-6 years ago, I think he retired. And I asked my mom to send. I go, do you still have the note from school? Because she saved it. And I asked her to save it. And so I took a copy of it. I had it copied. And I said, for Dave. And I gave it to Brian Tetta, the segment producer on the David Letterman show. And I said, I don't want anything from Dave. I don't want an autograph. I don't want a picture. I want nothing. He's given me so much. I want to send this to him. I go, if you can, would you put this on his desk one day and maybe convince him to read it? Busy guy, probably gets a lot of stuff. And so Brian's a good guy. And Brian goes, I'll do this. He read it. He goes, this is awesome. And he goes, this is so fantastic. I'm going to give it to Dave. I get a call a couple of days later from Brian, the segment producer on Letterman. He goes, Paul, I gave it to Dave. He looked at it. He goes, what is this? He goes, this is Paul. He's the producer for Dan Patrick. He knows who Dan is. He doesn't know who I am, but it's okay. Dave sits there for 3 minutes and reads it. He reads it, and he has put his glasses on, and he reads it, and he's got this is what Brian told me. He goes, he's got this crouched look on his face, like crunched up. And then at the end, his face just started grinning, huge, like this huge grin. And Dave, he looks at me. This is Brian talking. He goes, Dave looks at me and said, who is this again? He goes, Paul Pabst. He's the producer of the Dan Patrick Show. He hands it back. He goes, tell him this is fucking awesome. And man, I will dine out on that moment forever. But that, I think, in a nutshell, if you wanted to explain my background, that's it.
Yeah.
I never thought about
that's the best way to do it.
Wow.
I never thought about doing anything else.
Speechless.
I think in our classes we talked about what you guys are doing right now is so super cool. You should do it the rest of your lives.
We're trying.
And
yeah.
if it becomes $1 billion thing, great.
Yeah.
If it becomes a bunch of dudes hanging out, having a great time in East Bridgeport, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Because it will work out.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you bartended.
Yeah.
If you have to bartend to keep this stuff going, that's smart business to me.
I know.
So that's
We're past that, thankfully, but yeah, I've always kept that in mind as a backup.
Oh, I bartended all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So I know there's a long story, but I wanted to summarize it in one shot.
No, it was great. Tony, you had a question for him. I remember you saying to me specifically.
Yeah, I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
I guess my first one was actually about how you kind of started teaching with specifically
Oh, yeah.
SCM. Honestly,
Yeah.
I want to know how. 'Cause I know, obviously, I've heard Professor Thorne's backstory with Miller and everything. But how did you kind of get involved with Sacred Heart to start?
I went to college at Southern Illinois University, and I had good and bad professors, and the good ones really stuck out. And I always knew I wanted to teach someday. So I took, I think, 2 or 3 kind of. I didn't get my degree in teaching or certification, but I took a few teaching classes, so I'd have a baseline.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, once I get into this industry and I achieve whatever level of success, I would like to teach someday because I think I could give back a little bit. And I think I know what the difference is between a good and average professor, or whatever you want to say.
Right.
And I reached out a long time ago. This is 12 years ago to Fairfield University. And I pitched them because I knew Fairfield because I lived right down the street. I really didn't know Sacred Heart. I'd heard of it, but I didn't drive by it a lot. It's just in that little corner where you don't drive by.
Yep.
And I reached out to Fairfield University and I emailed them and they said, we'd love to have you as an adjunct teacher. I used my, whatever from the Dan Patrick Show to get in there. They said, and I taught for 1 semester at Fairfield, a sports media class. I pitched them an idea on a sports media program. I said, we're in the perfect spot. We're between ESPN. You guys have heard this out of my mouth 100 times. And they said, they ran it past the higher ups at Fairfield University. And they're like, we don't really think there's a market for that. I'm like, really? Sports media? I go, most young men and women in this America, a lot of women too, want to work in sports. And that's the dream. And I go, you don't think there's a market for a major or a master's program? They're like, we don't think so. I'm like, we're right down the street from ESPN and NBC. They didn't see it. I Googled Sacred Heart University. I Googled the communications department. The first name I saw, alphabetical order, Andrew Miller. I emailed him. He goes, come on in tomorrow. We wrapped it up in 2 hours. He goes, why don't you start teaching here next semester and we'll start building a sports media program. He goes, I love it. I think it's great. He goes, let me introduce you to this guy, Brian Thorne. He's one of our new guys. He was an undergraduate here, and let's put this together. We ran it past the people at Sacred Heart, the higher ups that have to approve everything, and they're all sports guys. You know some of the higher ups there. There's a gentleman named Jim Barcanero, and then the president of the school. I think he played baseball at Seton Hall, from what I remember, President Patillo. And they're all sports people. They approved it in 10 seconds, and there it went.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's great.
I love that Fairfield passed it up.
I know.
Too. That's awesome.
And then here's the kicker.
Yeah.
Fairfield, 8 years later,
Yeah.
develops their own sports media program. 8 years after we kind of got started with ours. It's a good school. I'm sure it's a good program, but they're 7-8 years behind what we're doing.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. The program at SHU is just lovely.
It's a good program.
But yeah, I love that. I'm glad we know that. I want to backtrack though, and then because I know a decent amount of the story, but your story's great, and what you did, the sacrifices you made early on.
I wouldn't call it sacrifices. I bartended so I could
but
work
even
in sports media.
Even
I wasn't
going,
loading trucks.
The story of you with your brother-in-law's car and it broke down.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Getting from Chicago to the Northeast, basically.
Well, I think that's one thing as a teacher or whatever you want to say, or a person in sports media. When you're in college, I think you're like, man, someday I would love to do this. There's some type of path there, and you have to just find it and stay with it. And if you'd have told me in college I'd be producing the Dan Patrick Show, I would have said, how's that going to happen? I wouldn't have said, no way that can happen. I would have said, how the hell is that going to happen? I'm in Carbondale, Illinois, down, surrounded by cornfields. And Dan Patrick came down there to broadcast games, and I'm a big fan of his. And then you fast forward, after I graduated, I think 9 years later, I'm producing his show. And sometimes I think back, I'm like, I don't know how that happened exactly. But, you pick your course and say, it's going to happen. And
right.
Just how do we get there? How do I get, it's like getting lost when you're driving. You figure it out if you can.
Yeah.
But working with Dan kind of came about when I interviewed at ESPN. I got a job at ESPN. I worked for College Game Day and radio and ESPN Network Radio for NFL. And then one day, Dan Patrick needed a new producer. I've told you guys this before, but I knew his old producer. He recommended me, and all of a sudden I'm in the hallway, and I kind of knew it was coming because his old producer goes, I think Dan's going to pull you aside today and see if you're interested in producing his radio show. And I mean, my head was spinning all day. I mean, the idea of that, you know.
And this is how far into Dan's career
this
was
is,
it? Was he
this
already doing radio? Or
Yeah, he was 2 years into his radio show at
Okay,
ESPN
cool.
Network Radio, 2 or 3
Yeah,
years.
it's pretty
He had one of
early.
the biggest radio shows in America, Mike
Yep.
and Mike in the morning, 24
Yep.
Nizer, Dan Patrick, ESPN Network Radio. This is June of 02, and it's a long time ago. But at that age, I remember thinking Dan Patrick might come up to me today and broach the idea of working together, and it was a reality. You know, and he walked up, we started talking. We found out we live in the same town, Milford, Connecticut. His house was quite nicer than mine, as you can imagine. my house was about the size of this room, without windows, and but you know. 2 days later, I'm working with Dan Patrick producing his show. There's a lot more to the story, and it's not that unbelievable story, but it was pretty surreal at the time because I mean I remember watching him in college every single night, not figuratively every single night, but literally. I hate using that word literally. You know, I hate that word.
Yeah,
But I
know.
watched SportsCenter with Dan Patrick every time I could, and I watched the replay over and over. So,
Right.
That's one of the cool things about my job is I try to never forget that this is what you want at Home Slice.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly.
Don't
Late
F it
nights-
up.
Yeah. Exactly. Usually that's how I always like late nights editing or whatever. I'll just look around the room and be like,
We want to be selling insurance.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I could be selling insurance.
yeah, like this is
Right.
a
Do you hear
dream.
you're grown there?
Yeah.
You know, if you're selling insurance, Anthony, you can't wear that outfit.
I'm very well aware of that.
How many times in our class would I come right from work and I'm
Yes.
wearing like
Yeah.
a Bears shirt?
I love their studio, by the way. Oh, it's the best.
The Dan Patrick Studio is like, it's a little bigger than this. But it's basically the same concept.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
It's an old warehouse.
I love it.
That was for industrial equipment that Dan bought and
Cool.
made it into kind of a bro paradise.
Yeah, I
I
haven't
know.
been to the new
I haven't
one
been
yet.
there either. I've seen
Yeah.
it. I've actually, obviously seen YouTube.
I've heard
videos.
stories from Mario.
This is
Yeah.
where they're trying to get the invite by pressure.
No, not at
no,
all.
This
not
is a
at
classic
all.
media movie.
No way.
I just want to let you know what's
Yeah.
happening here. I haven't been invited yet.
No, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I would very much enjoy to go.
We do. We do
I'd
have
love
a
to
show.
have you over there.
We do have a show called Where Is DTV Now, and
Right.
and it's like us behind. It's like very raw and organic. It's like vloggy, and it's us like Salem. We went to Salem the weekend
Yeah.
of Halloween, and Tony dressed up as Mario, did trivia, asking people questions. It was great. So we would definitely love that. I would love that.
I mean, someday if things work out, you
Yeah.
know, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it's going to happen. See, if I was Foe, I would say, guys, I would love to have you over.
Yeah,
Let's do it soon.
of course.
And then I would never call you back.
Exactly.
But instead, I'll say, like, we'll work on it.
You know what I tell people if they don't know who you are? I'll say he's a part of the Dan Patrick show, and then I go he's Shaq's favorite Danette.
Well, there's this thing. Shaquille O'Neal comes on our show sometimes, and he's a joker. I mean, he jokes with everybody at all times. And he always says, how you doing, McLovin? And there's another guy on the show, used to be on the show, called McLovin on the Dan Patrick Show, he's like 6'4" and has glasses. He doesn't look anything like me. But he always walks up and he goes, hey, McLovin. But then he tells me, he goes, I know your name's Paul. And,
Yeah.
and it's a total joke.
Yeah.
But seeing Shaquille O'Neal in person, by the way, is one of the surreal parts of your job because you expect Shaquille O'Neal to be that presence.
Yeah.
And it's more than you bargained for.
Yeah.
You're like, well, he's real.
Yeah.
He's a real person.
Yeah.
He's
I've only seen him on the life-size poster things. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, that's
you know
a
what I'm
real
talking
to
about?
scale.
Yeah.
But that's pretty surreal to see him in person.
Yeah. No, I've always thought it was cool, like just the industry of sports media that you get, especially doing it in a radio show setting, like how you guys do it is probably the most ideal, in my opinion, because you guys get to travel if you want.
Right.
Like I'm sure you guys get invited to stuff all the time, sporting events and blah, blah, and could make things happen now at this point. But you guys have done all that. And you guys have a home base where you guys get to just make fun content all the time.
Yeah, I think the great part about the Dan Patrick Show is a radio show on TV. It's not a TV show that's simulcast on radio. Dan has the freedom to take a guest 8 minutes or 18 minutes or 28 minutes. On TV, let's say Jimmy Fallon has a really good guest. Let's say it's Paul Rudd on. That segment's 8 minutes. And then they're going to break. And then they've got Scarlett Johansson's next. And so you have room to breathe, room to move. And it's interesting. Sometimes we'll do interviews with people and we think we're going to start one way and it goes completely the opposite way in a good way. And like there's athletes we've had on before, and I could probably go through 100 of them, but like Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's a famous NASCAR driver, And I think everyone knows his father passed away driving right behind Dale, like in his rearview mirror. His dad died blocking for him. It's one of the most surreal sports stories there is. And we've developed a relationship with Dale Earnhardt Jr. And Dan asked some questions that I don't think another media person would have, I wouldn't say the guts to do, but be comfortable asking about his father. And I don't know if Dale would share them. And it's funny because Dan's not a NASCAR guy. He knows the sport a little bit, but that's not what he grew up on. I'm more of a NASCAR guy. But he'll say to Dale Earnhardt Jr., like, tell me something about your dad I've never heard before. And I think that's such a great question. I remember Dan said that to Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I was like, oh, man. He goes, I became a race car driver to get his attention because I didn't want to be a race car driver. He goes, oh, that's you're telling me something about you. He goes, oh, yeah, I guess it is about me. And Dan goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, when I was like 15, he goes, my dad was out driving. He was the most popular driver in our country. Household name, Dale Earnhardt Sr. Beyond a household name, a hero.
Like Michael Jordan.
In the NASCAR world, he's exactly Michael Jordan.
I mean, he broke through the NASCAR just fandom.
People tattoo his image on their body, a lot of people. And so Dale Earnhardt Jr. told us a story about like his house burning down when he was a kid and his dad not being there. And then his dad would come in and grab a beer and then fall asleep in the chair. And they get like 3 minutes with him a night. And it was very emotional. And he goes, I started racing because I knew if I went to the track, I could hang with my dad. If I went to the garage, I could hang with my dad. He goes, I didn't especially want to be a NASCAR driver because I wanted to play soccer on my high school soccer team. And you're like, Dale Earnhardt Jr. wanted to play soccer? He goes, yeah, I like soccer. I like running around with my friends. He goes, I like drinking beer and listen to music. He goes, I probably would have done music. And he goes, but if I want to spend time with my dad, I had to go to a racetrack or a garage. And I'm like, wow, I never heard that before. And he goes, well, no one's ever asked. No one's ever asked.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the best moments on the show is when you get something out of someone, and you don't have to be a fan of NASCAR to be entertained by that type of interview,
of course.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of radio, like our favorite guys on radio. Because I think it's, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I think a lot of ESPN radio and all that stuff, that whole thing is so gimmicky. Yeah. It's actually turned me off since I was like 15 years old.
Sometimes it can be formatted a little bit.
It's just too, it's just too blah. Like, I know what you guys are doing. But I don't know if you've ever listened. They're on early at 5 a.m. But Rick DiPietro and Dave Rothenberg show is literally ridiculous. They are, Dave Rothenberg, have you ever met him?
No.
He is, I don't know how to explain him. He reminds me of our guy Barnes, so I guess I kind of know what he's like.
So what time of day, I've heard the show, but what time, they're
5 to 8?
5 to 8.
So when you have a show that's off hours like that, sometimes you get away with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You could try stuff out and be more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like if you're doing a show, I would say from midnight to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm just saying for ESPN, I'm just talking about them in general because I only really listen to 98.7. I'll be honest, Michael Kay and them and Don LaGreca got me into sports radio.
Yeah, I know Michael real well. He's a good dude.
Yeah, they got me in. I just randomly turned the radio dial, searching for music, and then it was just, I'm listening to these guys, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, this is way better than anything on right now. Like, and it just, they know. That's all we listen to.
Some interviews that really stand out to me that on our show where you go back, when Kobe Bryant passed away 2.5 years ago, we were down in Miami for the Super Bowl. He passed away on a Sunday morning, the helicopter crash. And we all met that day, and we realized the Super Bowl week of shows for the Dan Patrick Show is like a celebration of football.
Yeah,
it's Michael Irvin's coming in.
Yeah,
Will
you guys
Ferrell,
do crazy stuff,
crazy fun stuff, and all of a sudden you have this horrendous story, the worst story you could have.
Oh, it's so bad,
and it's unbelievable because Kobe Bryant is one of the most alive people I've ever covered.
Did you ever get to meet him or anything?
A couple in person once, but on the phone a few times.
Wow.
But that's what's interesting. You can learn so much about some of these athletes just in the moments on the phone with them. And one of my jobs on the Dan Patrick Show is to sometimes pick up the phone when someone calls in on the hotline. And I can remember once Kobe called in, and I go, Dan Patrick, we knew he was calling in. And so I see the number, and it's his number, it's a 310 or whatever it was. And I go, Dan Patrick Show, this is Paul. He goes, and I hear, like he's eating cereal. I hear crunching. He goes, Paul, Kobe. And his, that deep voice goes, Paul, Kobe. I go, hey, Kobe, how you doing? He goes, good. I go, breakfast? He goes, oh, yeah. I go, cereal? He goes, yep. Everything's real back. I go, all right, how about this? If I can guess the cereal you're eating, you send me an autographed jersey. I had to kill like a minute and a half because he called early, and you'll do, as a producer,
Shut the front door.
And I was just like, what the heck? I was just having fun with the guy. How often do you get to talk to Kobe Bryant? He goes, I like that. I like it. I go, give me one more crunch. And all of a sudden he takes a big scoop of cereal. Sorry to mess up your mics here.
Yeah, it's
it was like this big over the done crunch. I'm like, he goes, one guess. You know, the deep Kobe voice.
Yeah, of course. Go
One guess. I go, peanut butter Captain Crunch. He goes, oh man, you were so close. And his voice raised up. And it's like 5 a.m. or no, it's probably 6 a.m. in California. He goes, that's my second favorite cereal of all time. He goes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I go, Cinnamon Toast Crunch? I go, that's not healthy. He goes, it's my cheat food, man. Don't tell anybody it's my cheat food. He goes, I have like 3 scoops and a little bit of milk. He goes, but I won't eat a whole bowl. And he goes, I'm going to send you a jersey anyway, just because you're so close.
Wow.
He goes, when I was a kid, peanut butter Captain Crunch was my favorite. I'm like, mine too. And it was the weirdest, most normal conversation with just one of the biggest athletes on earth.
Yeah, favorite hooper.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is when Kobe Bryant passed away, we were just discussing, how do we cover this tomorrow? This is Monday of Super Bowl week. And again, we're not trying to be uncaring, but you got to cover the story fairly to cover Kobe, what he meant, what happened to those people, everything. And it's a quandary because you're also trying to celebrate Super Bowl week and you have all these guests set and you have to make decisions. And so it's one of those where you go to bed at night, you're like, I'm not looking forward to tomorrow's show. First of all, that this guy and all those people died and his daughter. And you're like, I just wish this wasn't happening. But you have to cover it. You don't have a choice as a journalist or a reporter or whatever you want to call it. And so I went back and it was like midnight and I found the last interview we did with Kobe Bryant, probably a year and a half before he passed away. Remember he won an Oscar for Love of Basketball?
Yeah, I love that.
Was it?
Yes.
Love and Basketball.
It was a cartoon.
Yeah.
Short film.
Yeah.
It's dope.
And so we had him on the day after he won, and he was excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Dan asked me, he goes, if I told you when you were 15 you'd have an Oscar and NBA MVP, he goes, I probably would have said, I don't know what I would have said. He goes, I was not that into basketball at 14 yet. I was getting there. He goes, but I liked other sports. He goes, I like movies. But then when I went back and looked at the interview, in the middle of the interview, Dan asked him something, because he's retired for a couple of years at this point. He goes, would you ever be a coach? He goes, I am a coach. He goes, you are? He goes, yeah, I coach my daughter's team. He goes, I didn't know that. He goes, oh, yeah, Dan. He goes, I'm every morning, every night. He goes, I'm at practice. He goes, I haven't missed a practice yet. He goes, I've got a pretty busy schedule. Mm-hmm. He goes, how old's your daughter? He goes, she's 11. He goes, how's the team? He goes, they're good. He goes, and Dan goes, I could picture you coaching. He goes, are you as intense? He goes, oh, I'm more intense.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm doing the pick and rolls. He goes, I'm telling them where to put their elbows. He goes, and my daughter, he goes, how's your daughter? He goes, Dan. He goes, Dan.
Yeah.
Like, he just paused, like you have no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? He goes, is she a little you? He goes, she's little me. She got her tongue out. She's got a scowl on her face. She's angry during practice. She wants to stay late and get up early. He goes, she wakes me up at 4:15 in the morning, says, Dad, let's get some shots up.
Wow.
And now he goes, I'm downstairs, and I'm just sitting there like, oh. But Dan and I talked about that the next morning, and I go, why don't we just play the entire Kobe Bryant interview from the last time we had him on? He could tell the story of him way better than we could tell the story of him.
Yeah.
And Dan set it up, and he goes, this is the last time when we played it. And people were just like, especially our affiliate in Los Angeles were like, oh my gosh. But I think it was the right call because there's no right way to cover when someone dies way too early in a helicopter crash, and we try to do our best. So
I know
that was one of those that stand out to me.
Kobe's the best. We have that's our mindset, Mamba mentality here at Downtime. We know that. He's literally my mom's favorite basketball player. I've seen him play live with Jeremy Lin.
Oh wow!
On the team. My mom's 2 favorite basketball players. Can you believe that? Jeremy Lin and Kobe Bryant, because she loved Jeremy Lin's story.
Lin was a big deal.
And Kobe, she just loved Kobe. She just his work ethic and how he played the game.
Yeah.
But that's epic. Wow, that's awesome that you get to have those moments, and those those are the moments you get in such a cool field too.
It's fun. I got a question for Anthony. You played rugby, club rugby, right?
Yeah.
He was the coach this past year.
I can make the case that rugby might be the roughest sport there is. And and I'm complimenting your sport. Like, I've never played high. I played rugby for like 10 minutes once, and I was like, get the hell out of here, man. And I don't consider myself a total wimp. But like, hockey's a very tough sport. But there's a lot more padding. Football is obviously tough. Basketball, baseball, soccer, they have their moments. But I don't know if there's a rougher sport than
maybe boxing and MMA.
MMA, the purpose is to knock you out. In rugby, you never say,
sport.
"Hey guys, we're going to knock out number 27 over there."
Yeah,
right.
It's a byproduct of what you do.
Yeah,
and I think the rugby might be the roughest.
Yeah, I've played, I would say, most sports. Yeah.
Tony's a supreme athlete. If you didn't know.
No. I wasn't great at every sport, just a couple. But yeah, rugby was definitely up there in terms of obviously physicality. But I don't know. I played hockey for a quick second, and I wasn't really good at it when I was a kid, so I didn't play for very long. But to me, I feel like hockey involves a little bit more skill.
Oh yeah.
Than just
He's just saying roughness wise.
Just brutality on your body.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about rugby too, like there's only one ref and there's 30 guys in the field.
Is that true? There's one.
So there's one ref on the field, and then there's 2 touch judges on the sidelines.
Wow.
But I mean, most of the game, that ref is following the ball, so a lot of stuff happens away from the ball that you kind of have to really keep your head up at. So
wow.
When I was in college at Southern Illinois, they used to have this rugby party. They'd invite like Southern Illinois and Eastern
Tony
Illinois.
always talks about the rugby.
Oh
parties.
man, they would invite the other state schools that had rugby clubs, in like Illinois State and Northern Illinois, and all the rugby players from all these schools would take over the strip of bars that we had. And I was told, like, I was in a fraternity, my fraternity brothers, and some were some big dudes, big tough dudes, and like, hey man, don't go to the strip this weekend. Don't go out on the strip. I'm like, why? It's a rugby weekend. I'm like, oh, they're not going to mess with you. He goes, they probably won't mess with you, but like, if you get in a fight with these guys, it's over, because, I've seen rugby guys before, and I bet when you punch a tough rugby guy in the face, they laugh. They're like, come on, man, this is what I do. I get punched in the face with someone's knee
With
or
someone's
elbow.
knee.
Oh.
But wrestlers and rugby guys would be the last guy to fight.
Yeah, and MMA.
Yeah, wrestlers specifically too.
They feel like they could
odd
take
breed.
Yeah.
Again, I wrestled like grade school and 1 year in high school, and I was terrible. But my friends were good wrestlers. And they could just take your knee and put it into your ear hole and hold it there and laugh at you.
I know.
And if you ever are at a bar, this is a great tip for you kids out there. If you're ever at a bar and you see someone whose ear is just a mass of flesh and looks like cauliflower, don't get in a fight with that guy, even though he's 5'8".
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No.
So that's just a little segue there.
No,
to
it's
whatever we're next.
No, that's true. That's you never judge a book by its cover in general. You know what I mean? But
those cauliflower ears.
Run for your life.
Yeah.
Run for your life.
that's MMA right there. I'm telling you, those guys, that like you said, laugh when they get hit. They enjoy it.
Yeah, we did this bit on the show one time. We've done these regular bits where, so that backstory is about 10, 12 years ago on the Dan Pat Show, we had Tony Siragusa in person. And do you guys remember Siragusa, who played defensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens? He's been in movies, he's been on TV before. He's probably 6'3", 350. I mean, he is a tank. I mean, he just blocks out the sun when you stand in front of him. And myself, and we were discussing it, this guy Seton O'Connor on the show, if you put our weight together, I think we're both 185. We equal his weight. Mm-hmm. So we were sitting there like, if we weigh the same as you, could we block you? He goes, oh, you guys couldn't block me. And this is he's retired for like a decade. This isn't like he's in his prime.
You guys did it like.
So we were on the beach and we decided to block Tony Siragusa. He pushed us. Like, imagine you guys have nieces or cousins that are 9 years old.
Yeah.
Imagine if they tried to block you and you gave everything you had and ran
and just
through.
tossed
They
them.
would fall like little dolls. We fell off. You could find this on YouTube. We tried to block Siragusa, and it looked like two children blocking a big man. And it was almost surreal. So I started doing this running bit on the show where I would engage professional athletes in some type of physical challenge just to show how different it is.
Yeah.
And like Michael Strahan came by. He was only a year or two retired. He was in perfect shape. And I tried to block him. And he goes, are we doing this? I go, yeah, give it like 3/4 speed. He goes, all right. Like he looked at me like, you know what you're getting into, little man? And I'm not like a small person, and I'm not a big person. I think I'm 6 foot, 187. I think that's a pretty normal human being. Of course, I'm not in any type of great shape, or I was never an athlete. But I try to make, because my friends from high school, I was like, oh, I could block Michael Strahan. I'm like, no, you could not block Michael Strahan just because you played offensive line back in the 80s for my high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think people realize what a different level professional athletes are. And so, like Michael Strahan, I went to block him, and it's at the Dallas Super Bowl. And by the way, there was snow all over the place at the Dallas Super Bowl. He put his thumbs underneath my armpits and lifted me up, so I was just on my toes. And he's running me backwards and pushing me, and I'm just kind of skipping my toes off the icy ground. And it was like he's picking up a doll and getting ready to throw it. And he was going to throw me off this ledge of where our studio was, our set was. At the very last second, he realized it was like a 15-foot fall. He thought it was like a 5-foot fall.
Yeah.
And he stopped to put the brakes on, and he just slammed me down, and then he kind of kneed me in the ribs, and it was wild. And I've done this regular bit with different people, and the one time it stood out because you were talking about getting a concussion or something. Matt Forte was a running back for the Bears, And we had one of those little fake helmets that they have like for signing autographs at Super
Yeah.
Bowl week. And I put it on. It has ear pads and like a pad or two, but it's more for like, it's not a real NFL helmet. And I said to Matt Forte, I'm like, would you like, I'll go to tackle you and give me a stiff arm.
Oh my
And
god.
he looks at me, and this is before the show. He goes, for real? I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right. And they all do the same thing. Like, all right, like, you know what you're about to happen to you, son? And he kind of did this cross-face stiff arm to my head and jaw area.
Oh.
And I went down, I looked up, and I was seeing stars, like black and stars. And I got back up, and then I was like, whoa, I was really dizzy. And for about a half an hour, I was nauseous. And people were like, oh, that was a good act. That was a good bit. I'm like, that was not a bit. But it's funny, and it's a fun bit we do on the air sometimes. I've kind of retired from it because it's pretty rough stuff.
Oh, I bet. I mean,
But it's funny to see these athletes, and they want to do it. They don't want to really hurt you because they don't want to
Yeah.
get sued. But it is a funny bit for our show, and we have fun with it.
it's funny you mentioned that. So Tony, on our sports show, the Sports Port, he has
Great show.
He has been quoted as saying he can tackle the Titans running back. What's his name again?
Derrick Henry.
In an open field, 1-on-1.
Not like 50 yards.
No, what is it?
But no pads. Give me 20 yards.
So you just go for his legs and try to wrap him up?
Yeah.
Look, you may be able to throw your body to him like a sandbag and he trips over it.
Right.
But
right.
you're not making any clean tackle. He will. We had him in studio. You can look it up on YouTube. I said to the thing, would you let me try to tackle? He goes, I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to hurt you, and you probably end up suing me and try to, And I said, I would never. And I said it on air, so I would never sue anyone who did this. It's my choice. And he goes, I don't know, man. And he kind of gave me a little stiff arm, and he didn't really do it. He's 6'4", 260, and shredded. I mean, shredded like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And fast and
Yeah.
explosive. So it's not like one or the other.
Yeah.
He's not big or fast. He's not explosive and like chubby.
Yeah.
He's both. So Anthony, you might be able to like knock him to the ground, but you're going to the emergency room.
Well, maybe.
And you're a tough dude. I think you're a tough dude. I'll say that on air.
I think I could try it. Maybe you can pass down the bit and we can start doing it.
You guys should. I should pass it down to the
Oh,
generation
my
that's
God.
less concussed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a good idea for a TV show. I have an idea for a show that I think would be good, the American Combine, and take all the NFL Combine drills and let average men and women try them, like the 40 and the bench press 225 and cone drill and catching, and have like J.J. Watt host it, and have Deebo Samuel and J.J. Watt host it, two young, great, fun athletes.
Yeah.
And imagine like a bunch of guys like you guys go there and we'll try the Combine, and you try 225 and you're just sitting there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a good TV show.
The vert.
Yeah, the vert, and it's like 18-inch vert.
Oh my God.
I can maybe get 20.
Tony's yeah.
On Mars.
Tony, he's actually a good hooper. I'll give him that. They call him Twinkle Toes.
Oh yeah.
He's got a good jumper. He's a
Pretty
good,
good.
he's a good athlete. He's a good athlete. He really is.
We a couple years ago, I'm going to name drop brutally because that's why I'm here. Adam Sandler was in town to do a comedy show in Bridgeport, and his guys were with him. He always travels with a big crew of bros.
Yeah.
And they came over. They had time to kill. So like, hey, you guys want to play pickup?
Oh my gosh.
And-
I would love that.
And they came to our studio, and there's video of this. Sandler and his crew, and one of them's a really good basketball player. His name's Joe Vesey. His dad was Peter Vesey, the famous columnist. This guy's like an and one guy. And so Sandler is actually a really good
Yeah, he
basketball
is.
player. I think he's probably 54 years old, 53. He's good. Not
Yeah.
like I'm saying it because he's Adam
Yeah.
Sandler. Like he was probably the second best guy in the court.
Wow.
And he was really good.
Very smart. The way I've watched him play, he's got a good IQ.
Great passer.
Great passer. Awkward jump shot, but it's kind of like and he got game Denzel's jump shot.
Yeah,
in that. So-
it does. It
yeah.
goes kind of back.
It's
and
eerily
it goes
similar.
in though.
Yeah, it does.
The other thing, I got to guard Adam Sandler. You're not going to guard him hard because you're kind of in awe that you're playing basketball with Adam Sandler.
yeah.
It'd be like playing pick up with Obama. You're like, I'm not hand checking him.
Yeah.
The Secret Service will take me down.
Yeah.
But he had this guy with him named Joe Vesey. He was probably 6'3", bone thin, kind of middle aged, looking like not middle aged, but he was like 33 years old. He didn't look especially athletic. Mm-hmm. He was unbelievable. He was dribbling through his legs. Then he dribbled through your legs and back to himself. And he was embarrassing people.
Yeah.
And he goes, I used to be on the N1 tour 15 years ago. I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that Dan gets to be featured on a lot of Adam Sandler's movies. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
There's one that came out today. It's called Hustle.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
We're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it.
Dan's
that's cool.
in that. Dan taped a segment. Dan plays himself doing a sports radio
Cool.
segment
Yeah.
talking about, and we taped it in the studio. And then one of the other guys from the Dan Patch Show, Andrew Perloff, he plays a reporter and actually has a line in one of the scenes.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that comes out today.
Yeah,
Theaters
That's
near you.
awesome.
Yeah, and on Netflix. I hate that they do
This
that.
is not a paid advertisement.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
I'm not in the movie. Not in this one.
yeah.
I think the last one I saw that you were in was That's My Boy.
That's
I
my
think.
boy.
Oh,
The
wow.
last one, like I've been in 20 movies. Like I was looking back at your film catalog.
Yeah.
I think we've been in 3 Sandler movies. I think I was a houseplant for one. No, we got to be extras in 3 Sandler movies. The one that was really cool was That's My Boy. It's with Vanilla Ice and Andy Samberg and Susan Sarandon.
Oh yeah, we watched it
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
and you were the film crew.
He was
and
the
stuff.
producer
Yeah,
of
the
the-
producer.
of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Really stretch of a
That
role.
was
I
so
I played
awesome.
Got the clipboard.
Yeah, it's awesome, Renee. Yeah,
So-
the clipboard.
Adam Sandler shot that movie outside of Boston, and this is probably 7 years ago. And they took an old grade school that's going to be demolished, and they made it look like a women's prison. And our scene is probably less than 2 minutes long. Dan Patrick plays like a reality television host, like an old Jerry Springer type. And we played his camera crew, and we were kind of ambushing Andy Samberg's character and Susan Sarandon at the women's prison. And Sandler set it all up. He's like this sleazy dad, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And so we got to go up there and shoot. And it was one of the great experiences because Sandler knows us from the Dan Patrick Show. But a lot of people on the set had no freaking idea who we were. They know who Dan Patrick is, but Dan was in character where he had, in makeup,
Yes,
he had
yes.
white hair and a
Yeah.
jacket. So a lot of people on the crew were like, I know who Dan Patrick is, but I don't know who that gentleman is.
Yeah.
And so during the scenes, and we shot it over 2 days. It takes forever, but it
I
was
know.
a great experience.
It's ridiculous.
And during the breaks, we were extras. And extras are supposed to be like this water bottle. They're supposed to sit silently and do nothing until you're told action. You literally, you can't go to the bathroom. You can't check your phone. If you're an extra in a movie or TV show, and I didn't know this because I've never been in one, they tell you stand silently and do nothing and wait for direction from the director or the assistant director. And you don't engage the stars. You don't chit-chat with the stars. And so we're shooting a scene, and there's Andy Samberg, who is a very famous comedian, and then there's Susan Sarandon, who's really famous actress. I mean, she was in Bull Durham. She was in Dead Man Walking, for God's sake, and she's in the scene. And so we're standing there. There's only the 5 guys from the Dan Patch Show are the extras. And the director comes out, and he starts giving everyone their instructions what to do. And they're like, all right, you don't get your name. You just... And we were asked to be in a movie by Adam Sandler, so we weren't the traditional extras. We were kind of like friends of the star. But at the moment, it didn't...
Didn't feel like it.
No, it didn't feel like it. But it was fine. It was such a great experience. So the guy goes, when Adam does this, you walk around him, and you have your clipboard, and then you with the camera, you focus in here. I'm like, okay, great. And you say nothing. You just nod your head. And then between instructions and between rehearsals, Sandler would turn towards us because he knows us and he loves sports. He'd be like, hey, Paul, the bullpen of the Yankees, it's crap, right? It's not going to hold up. No, I don't think I'd worry about that. I mean, the Yankees usually make trades at the trade deadline. I'm just having a conversation with another guy. There's a lot of downtime on a movie set, so Sandler was making conversation with Dan Patrick and myself. But, all of a sudden Susan Sarandon is standing there 3 feet away. And she's looking up, and she's got this look on his face like, why the hell is the extra talking to Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
But then she's also thinking, Adam started the conversation. And it happened 15, 20 times because between takes, there's like, they have to reset the camera, do the lights, or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Susan Sarandon have no idea who we are. Zero.
Just he like, wow, Adam's just talking it up with these extras.
Being really nice to these extras.
Yeah.
So it was
he makes them so comfortable. Adam, he's the best.
And it was really fun. It was a great experience. It took 2 days. Andy Samberg is a maniac. I can't even tell you some of the jokes he was telling us.
Yeah, I bet. Off
But
air and stuff.
It was really neat that Adam invited us to be part of that. And then there was another movie called Pixels. It was filmed in Toronto. It's a movie. I don't know if you a lot of saw it, but oh, come on.
What the hell?
I don't have 10 movies.
Was Pixels like the half animated one?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about like video games and it's deep. You may not understand it. I'll have to fill you in.
Okay.
Is it an Adam Sandler movie?
It's Adam Sandler. It's Kevin James.
Oh, cool. I love Kevin
Peter
James.
Dinklage is in it. So that was really, just a surreal experience.
Yeah, that's cool. I honestly, it is a great experience. That's why I've done it. When I was in college, undergrad, I did some extra stuff.
I heard there was a lot of male nudity in that.
No,
But like it wasn't asked for. You just volunteered.
yeah, no, yeah. I was like, hey, I'm the guy for that. No, but it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
That's cool.
And I actually got to hang out. I'm not even joking. It was surreal. Like a TMZ took a photo of us, me and my friend AJ. We thought I was famous. We thought I was making it because I come in, they have us, blah, it's all crazy. You get to the set, and then I get picked to be right around here. Let's say this is the set, and I'm where Renee is, and all of a sudden he brings another extra, and he's like, "You're gonna give the cue for Alessandra Ambrosio to go and do her scene," and I'm like, "Who's Alessandra Ambrosio?" And then, of course, she comes up, and I'm like, "Whoa, okay." Yeah. And we literally talked probably the whole time, like during behind the scenes. And I even got to talk to Carmelo Anthony, who
awesome.
at the time was my favorite. He still is my favorite hooper, even though he's whatever.
Yeah, that's a cool experience, man.
It was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, I totally get it. It was like 15 hours for the scene. I'm in it. It's
You gotta have a magnifying glass to
oh
find
no
him.
way!
Yeah.
You see me? I'm like,
That's okay.
This is the shot. I'm like this. Like,
Well, it's funny. This movie Pixels, we play reporters in a White House press conference, and so we're not doing much. We're just going, Mr. President, yelling out, and it's just an excuse to stick us dopes in the movie.
Yeah.
But I can remember they were placing us in the crowd, so you could either be in the front row or in the second row or in the third row, and I stood next to Dan Patrick because he's the big guy.
Yeah.
And I go, "Where are you sitting, Dan?" He goes, "I'm in row 3." I'm like, "I'll sit next to you."
Yeah.
Because if you sit next to Dan Patrick, you're
gonna be in
assured
it.
some camera time.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and it's so cheesy and hokey and embarrassing. But so where Anthony is where the camera is.
Yeah.
Where Dan is standing up because he's like, "Mr. President, I would like to ask you a question." And Dan's doing his bit. I kind of stretched my body like this to make sure I was as close to Dan's right arm.
yeah.
And if you look at it, you could see my chin from my face from the chin up. It's so bad and embarrassing, but it was a fun experience.
That's hilarious. I love it. What's your favorite part of your studio? I know it's out of left field, but I was just thinking.
I like the fact that we have a grilling area.
I knew it.
I
was gonna say the same thing.
other places might have a basketball court or
Yeah.
a bar and stuff like that, but like on Fridays we grill, and we
Yeah.
sit out, we chill, and we have a beer, we eat some brats or whatever, and
Tony's
all the guys on the
loving
show have even 20 or 30 minutes of just hangout time before,
Yeah.
and we don't talk work at all. We talk about what's on TV or what's on,
Yeah.
what are you going to do tonight, or
Yeah.
what I got to get new tires for my car, or whatever dopey
Yeah.
stuff.
Life.
And then you go home, you're like, day is over. I had a beer, I had some wings. I'm gonna go take a nap. We had a good week.
Yeah.
And then you enjoy your weekend and you just
Yeah.
enjoy it. And I don't know, it's good for morale.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We need a toaster in here.
Yeah, let's get a hot plate.
Yeah,
Get a hot plate in there.
I know. I've been saying
Need a
it.
toaster.
I've been saying it.
Maybe George Foreman grill.
That's for our go. We're big outdoors people, so we just got an 8-person camping tent.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
we it's sick.
Have you used it yet?
Oh yeah.
4 times.
I don't know.
We were just on the
4
beach.
times.
Renee,
Renee, come
tell them about
I
the
want to
beach.
tell you about the whole experience.
I mean, that day was epic. It was all 3 of us
The whole
and
day,
Matt.
we were at South Pine Creek Beach
Yeah.
in Fairfield, and we go down to the end by the private beaches, but it's our private beach.
Yeah.
Nice.
We made it
Yeah.
ours.
That's how Downtime
Mike made it
rolls.
there
Yeah.
From a young age. And we put up the
I've
tent.
been going there my whole life. I grew up right on South Pine.
Okay.
So I know this is our turf, brah.
Yeah. So we put the tent up, and we have a portable power source thing.
Uh-huh.
So that day specifically, I think it was last weekend.
Yeah.
It was last weekend on Saturday. Beautiful day. We had umbrella outside the tent with 2 chairs, towels everywhere. You can be inside the tent doing some work. Then I'm gonna go outside. I'm
Has
gonna
windows
tan a
for
little bit,
breeze,
Yeah.
good
play around,
airflow.
go for a walk,
Has a
come back,
roof.
do some work.
It's crazy.
That was an awesome office
That's a good day. And your work that's
We were working too. Yeah, it was
yeah.
dope.
That's the cool thing. Again, if you work anywhere in the sports media, you have some of those days where you're just sitting there like, we did the show a couple of years ago, 3 years in a row. We worked for DirecTV, which is owned by AT&T, and 3 years in a row they had us broadcast our show live from Pebble Beach, which is on the coast of Carmel, California. You couldn't make a more beautiful place.
Yeah.
And it's the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and all the big golfers are there and the celebrities are there. And our show starts at 6 a.m. local time, so we got to be up early. Wake up call's 3:45, on set by 4-ish, and live at 6 a.m. That's a punch in the face. That 3:45 a.m. wake up call.
yeah.
But once you get there, you're at Pebble Beach and it's dark, but you have the lights of the set. And then around 6:45, here comes the sun, and it's coming up behind the practice range at Pebble Beach, and there's Nick Faldo, and there's Justin Timberlake warming up, and then here comes Clint Eastwood on the set.
Wow.
And you think to yourself, there's not a better place on earth than where we're sitting right now, and you don't get those every day. Most of it's the daily grind of doing a sports show.
Yeah.
But it was as a kid, I used to watch the Pebble Beach Pro-Am on TV, and I'm like, well, I could never afford to play around. I still can't afford to play around at Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
But we got to be there for 3 straight years, and there's some surreal views there. And then you go down by the water, and there's Jim Nantz, and the great Jim Nantz broadcaster, one of my favorite broadcasters of all time. And he's like, hey, come down to the house, because Jim lives on the 7th hole at Pebble Beach. Nobody's got it better than Jim Nantz. Google it, look it up. Jim's house is like, it's like a movie set. You think like, oh my God, he's got the best house in America.
You want to pull it up? I want to see it.
There's bigger houses. There's not better views.
Yeah. 7th hole.
Don't show Jim Nantz's house on TV, just so no one goes over there. But you guys.
Oh no, it won't. It's not on. It's just we're just gonna see it.
But it's.
Oh, you guys want a house in Westport?
Yeah.
He used to live in Westport.
He used to.
Yeah,
Oh really?
He lives full time in Pebble Beach on the course.
Oh wow.
And that's pretty surreal to live on.
Wow,
Pebble
it's
Beach.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his view.
Wow.
And so he in Jim
Oh,
Nantz's
yeah, I see the house
backyard.
right there.
You could probably see us if you look up Dan Patrick Show, Jim Nantz house. There's a picture of Dan Patrick right there. Jim Nantz had contractors build the par 3 or whatever the par 3 is, like the 12th hole at Pebble Beach. He had them remake it in his backyard. It's like 40 yards long. He's got a tee box. He's got sounds. Jim Nantz invites us over to his house. This is as surreal as it gets. I used to work with Jim back in the CBS days, so I knew him a little bit. And he invites us to his house for breakfast after our show's over. And we're sitting out in the backyard eating, breakfast tacos at Jim Nantz's house.
Wow.
And then he goes, let's go to the backyard. And he remade the par 3 at Pebble Beach in his backyard. He's got golf clubs and little like the plastic golf balls so you don't break stuff. And all of a sudden he pulls his phone out. He's got the Sonos, and he starts playing the Augusta Masters music. With the birds chirping. And he goes, welcome to my backyard. This is Jim Nantz. And you're like, where's the cameras? We got to be filming. This is the greatest thing that ever happened to us. And
that's crazy.
We had a par 3 contest with Jim Nantz in his backyard at Pebble Beach. And I remember McLovin, probably the second worst golfer in the group, beat Jim Nantz. And Jim goes, I'm never going to recover from this. But Jim was so nice to us. He bought us breakfast made, and we hung out in his backyard. And there's a rock where if you hit a hole in one in Jim Nantz's backyard, you're emblazoned on the rock. And the name's like Nick Faldo. Like there's famous people.
Yeah.
And then McLovin didn't hit it in the hole, but he goes, if you hit it in the hole and I got to put Andrew Perloff next to Nick Faldo, Jim Nantz like, I can't do that. I can't disgrace this rock. But that's one of those moments where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What are we doing in Jim Nantz's backyard? And
yeah.
It's all thanks to Dan Patrick and his career that he built, and we jumped on midway through, and it's been great ever since. But I think one of the things you learn about these people in this industry is sometimes the more famous the guy or person, man or woman, the better the person. And I really have a theory that Jim Nantz didn't get to where he is by being a jerk. I've met Bob Costas. I'm not his best friend or anything, but he's a really nice guy. He's real serious about his job, but he's a very nice person. And just about all of them are. Usually the guys who are jerks, men and women who are jerks in this industry, are the mid-level people who think they're Jim Nantz and they're not. They think they're Bob Costas and they're not. And the people I've worked with, like Reese Davis at ESPN, he's not the most famous guy on earth. He's one of the best people. And every time I see him sign a new contract at ESPN, I'm like, good for you, man.
Yeah.
You were nice to all of us. When I used to work at ESPN, we were pretty low on the whole food chain. We were, there's a bunch of mid-level producers like I was when I started there. And Reese Davis was like, hey, how you doing? What's your name? He could have easily walked right past my desk.
Guys, yeah.
Reese Davis goes, hey, you new here? Because he knows he rocks the radio department. I go, yeah, Reese. I go, I'm Paul Pabst. He goes, Reese Davis. I'm like, I know who the hell you are. You're a great sports center anchor. Now he does College Game Day. Guys like that deserve it because they were nice to us. And even like a Chris Berman. He didn't come around a lot when I was at ESPN. But he heard my last name. He goes, your last name's Pabst? He goes, that's fantastic. And he walks up. He goes, what's your backstory? I told him, and we had like a 2-minute conversation. Chris Berman could have easily walked past and not said hi or introduced yourself. So cool stuff like that.
That's sick. I mean, you have a great name. If people don't know, it's the beer,
Pabst Blue
River.
River.
And there is a relation, right?
Yeah, my family is technically related to the Pabst family. From what I read and when I was told as a kid that a lot of them moved from Germany to Chicago, and then a couple of the brothers went to Milwaukee to start the brewery because they were giving out like free property or free old buildings, but you had to sign a contract that you'd start. This is what I remember reading. And all I get out of it, every couple of years I get a box full of shirts and hats. And that's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like 22.
Yeah.
And you're living with a bunch of dorky guys in the north side of Chicago. You're like, a box of Pabst Blue Ribbon shirts. You're my hero. And I was like, I wish I could get more free beer.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be really nice.
That'd be nice if you got like a case every 6 months.
Yeah, if you were Pabst Blue Ribbon and you're listening right now, if you wanted to
I can't believe,
send the guys to me or maybe the guys at Downtime.
And Dan Patrick show.
Yeah,
Like, you
I'm a
guys should
big
definitely-
fan of PBR.
He loves
One of
them.
my favorite beers.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I have
great.
something to ask you.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of getting to where you are now?
Oh man, that's such a big question.
I know, but just
Like,
like,
I-
hearing like all these like awesome stories, it's so awesome. And to me, I'm like, oh my god, this is so great. But, like, of course, there's a way of getting there.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different one.
In my class, I think one of the first things and last things I tell the students is more so about like work ethic and planning out a career than, you know, someone else could teach you how to edit. I can't teach you how to edit. That's someone else's job. I would say go into your career and don't have a backup plan. Think I'm going to work in the sports media or whatever area of media for the rest of my life. That is non-negotiable. I think if you start flirting with backup plans, now that doesn't mean you can't have a backup job so you can make rent, like a bartender or a waitress or a waiter or anything. Show up early, stay late, stay off your phone. Don't call in sick ever. Don't ever call in sick. Let your boss send you home if you're sick. I remember I probably beat you, Anthony. How many times did I beat you guys to death with that line?
Every day.
Every day.
If you are lucky enough to get
day.
into sports media, get in the building and try to stay in the building.
Yeah.
Don't give them an excuse to move on from you or let you go.
I know. Especially in that industry, like, you know,
They will
those
move on from you.
Oh, quick.
You earn your reputation really early in your career. So let's say you were starting today at NBC Sports, and you're supposed to be there at 8. If you're there at 8, you're late. Don't walk in at 8 when your work starts at 8. That's what posers do. You should be at your desk by 7:45, reading in, seeing what the sports stories are for the day, and your boss will be there. Probably earlier than you. Show up early, stay late, stay off your goddamn phone for God's sakes. People playing. What are you doing? What are you checking for? Is it work related? Don't call in sick. If your boss asks you, especially when you're new in this industry, hey, you've been there for 4 weeks, and let's say there's a hockey game at NBC, and they need a production assistant to help out. Hey, can you stay late tonight? Yes. The answer is yes. One word. Sure. Great. Be excited when your boss asks you to stay late. Be happy that they're asking you. You're not like loading trucks on a dock. You're covering a hockey game for NBC SN. When I started at CBS News or CBS Sports in New York City, I was nobody. I was the weekend stat guy. They paid us almost nothing. And then people started asking me, hey, can you work Tuesday? Can you work Wednesday? Can you work Saturday? Can you work Saturday night? When you're 25 years old in New York City and someone goes, do you want to work Saturday night? You know what the answer is? No, I want to go out and kick it. But, no is not an option when you're 22, 23, 24, 25 in this industry. And what happens is you start making yourself really reliable to your bosses. I can count on this person to stay late. I can count on them to show up early. I can count on them to show up when they're supposed to be on vacation. And you start doing that, and then you start moving up the food chain faster than others who call in sick or take longer vacations or ask for a day off to go to a bachelor party or something like that. Look, maybe those days are not going to be as fun as some other people's, but maybe when you're 30, you're in charge. Now you can do your vacations and make your own schedule and hire people. So think of it like I'm planning out a 40-year career here. I'm not just getting a job at CBS Sports or Sports Illustrated. You got to have a strategy. Also, learn the job of the person above you on the food chain. So let's say you're brand new and you're working in graphics for NBCS Sports, and your boss is the head of graphics. Hey, can I shadow you and see what you're doing on the soccer coverage? Sure. Can I do this? Can I do that? Don't be a pest, but look for opportunities to. Because all of a sudden your boss, who's 28, who heads up the graphics people, takes a job over at ESPN, and they need a new graphics person. And you walk up to the supervising producer or whatever and say, hey, I know that Chris left, but I shadowed him for a month, seeing what he did, just in case something like this happened. I'm ready to go. Really? They don't want to look outside the building to hire people. They want to hire people they know from right down the hall. That's the dirty secret. You see those job openings, they don't want to interview 30 people. They want to bring you in and just plug you in and make their life easier. To me, that's the strategy, and that's how you get to wherever you get to. And don't burn bridges. It's a small industry. If you leave a job, try to leave it on good terms. If you leave a job, don't stay out of contact with the people you used to work with just because let's say you worked at NBC Sports for 5 years, and all of a sudden you get a better job with ESPN. Keep in touch with your old people at NBC. Send them a Christmas card. Invite them to happy hour if you're in the neighborhood. Catch up once in a while. Because what happens if there's cutbacks at ESPN, which there are every 7-8 years. There are. It's automatic, like the cicadas. And you're out of work. And you call your old boss at NBC, say, hey, I'm out of work. Is there a spot for me? Absolutely, I got a spot for you. Because I saw you when we went skiing that one time. Or I saw you when we went to happy hour last month. I'd love to bring you back because I love working with you. That's how you never are missing a paycheck in the sports media industry. So that's basically my class in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really is. But with more, stuff.
There's more stuff.
My favorite part of the class actually was the creating the show idea and pitching it.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a cool experience, especially because you were being you'd be like a jerk type of dude. You'd be on your phone.
I would play the role of the
exactly.
jerk executive.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. It's
well,
good.
if you look at a show like PTI's been on air for 2 decades, probably one of the most successful sports television shows of all time. It's Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon sitting in chairs discussing sports. It's not that complicated.
No.
But some producer, Eric Rydholm, said, how do these two not... They used to talk all the time, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon. They worked together, columnists at the Washington Post. Wilbon used to go on Tony Kornheiser's radio show all the time. And this producer, Eric Rydholm, and some other people said, how do we not have a show with these two guys? It's so simple. How do they not slap these two guys on the air? They're smart, they're funny, they're snarky. PTI.
Yeah.
Some guy just saw that this is so obvious. Sometimes good shows are obvious.
Yeah.
Like, look at Hard Knocks. We're going to film training camp, but we're going to show you the players getting cut. So we're going to broadcast someone losing their dream on national television. Rarely do you see that in life, and that's why Hard Knocks worked. That one little morsel. Hard Knocks is cool. You got people, J.J. Watt pushing the sled and the slow motion shots in the quarterback room. That's cool. The reason Hard Knocks works is that one element of they showed the coach cutting the player. And you know what they always used to do on Hard Knocks when it started? There'd be some defensive back out of Tennessee Tech who was a 7th-round draft pick, and is he going to make the team or not? And they'd focus on him, but they wouldn't focus on Deion Sanders. They'd focus on the backup guy. Why are they focusing on the backup linebacker or the backup running back? Because his life is going to be pulled out from under him, or vice versa. The Tennessee Tech defensive back will be like, hey, we just want to have you in. You worked really hard. He thinks I'm about to be cut, and we think he's about to be cut. You made the roster. You just saw someone's dream come true on national TV. That doesn't happen on TV. That's Hard Knocks. So
Yeah.
stuff like that is cool.
It is. That's a great show.
Good show.
It is.
All right, Anthony, let's wrap it up. Me and you. What do you got? Last thing.
Yeah.
Last thing.
I'm giving you a little final word.
Oh wow.
It could be anything.
Could be anything, huh?
That's my cue that I got to go home and pick up my kids.
Right. One question I did have was what was your greatest moment as a teacher?
Oh, that's easy. Anytime you guys get jobs.
Oh.
That's easy, but I'll give a specific. It happened 2 days ago. One of my graduate students at Sacred Heart told me she has to miss my class because she's being flown down to a job interview in her hometown for this really good job that she wants. And she goes, I go, do you think, she said, I go, it's a good sign if they're flying you down, if they're paying for you to fly. So I don't know if she got the job or not, but I remember a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, this student of mine, she got a job at Sports Illustrated. And she got offered the job Wednesday of finals week. And of course she accepted. And her mom and dad come to graduation. And she tells me about it, but she didn't tell her mom and dad yet.
Oh.
And I go, you didn't tell your mom and dad yet? She goes, no, I'm going to surprise them at graduation. I was like, oh, man, that's a hammer. That's an awesome move. And so they're at graduation. You guys went to the Sacred Heart graduation. There's,
It's intimate.
It's hot. Yeah, there's 30, 40 kids.
Yeah.
It's not a big, monstrous.
No.
And the parents are there, and they're all excited, and Dad's there in his plaid shirt and his khaki pants with pleats. And he just paid $100,000 to send his daughter to college, and like most dads did, most parents did. And she gives me like the head nod, and I kind of just stand about 20 feet away with my arms folded. And she goes, Dad, Mom, he goes, so here's the thing. I got offered a job last week at Sports Illustrated, and I took it.
Yeah.
Dad's like,
It was worth it.
I'm getting choked up right now. But
Yeah.
Dad's like, that's it. My daughter just got her dream.
Yeah.
I paid all this money for college. I supported all her things that she wanted to do.
Yeah.
She's going to work at Sports Illustrated.
I know.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would have cut my finger off to work at almost literally.
Yeah.
To work at Sports Illustrated. I still have hundreds of saved Sports Illustrated. That's a legendary sports
Company.
media brand
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah.
And for a dad who's like 58 years old who grew up on Sports Illustrated,
Yeah.
your daughter says at graduation, I'm starting there Monday morning.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy,
I know.
you should have saw his face. You would have thought he won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, he
And-
technically did. Yeah.
And I've seen a handful of these happen. There's a kid. You guys remember Tamarick Wilson? Tamarick Wilson?
Yeah, T.
Yeah, T.
Yeah.
Tamarick Wilson. He was one of our favorite students at Sacred Heart. And I remember his mom passed away. And his mom wanted him to be, what he wanted to be. And he gave the speech at graduation. And then he got a job working at NBC Sports. He's had a very good career. And you see these kids, like, when you see them getting there, that's pretty cool. Because, when I was 22, I was a bartender. I had nothing going on. And I was trying to get in the sports media world. And the doors were closed. And if I would have got a job at Sports Illustrated at 22 years old, I would have done a backflip, or working for ESPN. So
Yeah.
it's, it's just the coolest.
Last question,
Yeah.
and we'll wrap it up. We always ask it. I ask two, but I'll ask one.
Oh, okay.
What's some advice you'd give to a young you out there?
Oh, man, like a 20-year-old me. Probably be more confident in yourself. Bet on yourself more. I think I did, but I always wish I'd done more. Sometimes you're like, I don't know if I should take that job. It doesn't make enough money, or I shouldn't say that. Bet on yourself more. If you're in a meeting, speak up. If you have a good idea, speak up. Don't just because you're low on the food chain at a bit. I would say speak up more when you're younger. Don't be afraid to ask for things. Sometimes people will say yes if you ask. Hey, can you hire me full time because I need benefits? Oh, I didn't realize you're part time. Oh, can I work? I'm a huge hockey fan. I'm working on the soccer coverage. Is there any chance you could help me morph over to the hockey side? Oh, yeah, sure. Sometimes people don't know what you want.
Right.
They can't read your mind. Your bosses and people above you in sports media, and you may say to them, "Hey, I don't really want to work soccer anymore. I love working at NBC, but I really want to work on the hockey coverage." I had no idea. Just speak up.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah, they don't.
Right.
They don't. Speak
Well,
up
guys,
for yourself.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, Paulie.
Hey,
Thank
and
you
you know
so
what? I
much.
can't wait for you
Seriously.
guys to come by the studio sometime down the road.
Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your phone on.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's a private number, just pick it up.
Appreciate
Okay,
it. We
will
appreciate
do.
you guys. And everybody, watch the Dan Patrick Show and stay tuned.
Downtime for life.
Yes.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do. Thanks again.